Hello and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Breaking news, YouTubers to be sued for up to $1 billion in damages due to promoting the FTX exchange. So, let's have a look at who we've got here. We've got Kevin FTX, which is Meet Kevin, Graham Stephan, Andre Jikh, Jaspreet Singh, Brian Jung, Jeremy Lethbury, I think it is, Tom Nash, Ben Armstrong, Erica Kohlberg, and the Creators Agency LLC. So, a few names in there that I do recognize. Greg Armstrong is definitely Bitboy Crypto, so I know he's on the list. And there's some in there that I don't recognize, but you know, Kevin FTX, I know, Graham Stephan, Andre Jikh, I know those guys. So I know these are people who've got substantial size YouTube channels, which makes sense, which is obviously why the lawsuit is coming out. So, okay, I'm going to break down my thoughts on this in regards to how, just what I think about it in general, right? Because there's a real fine line with this, and I think it's a real tightrope of a situation to navigate, because on one side I understand part of it, but on the other side I do understand the YouTuber's position as well. So I'm just going to show you some other tweets in this, and then I'm just going to break down what I think about it. So scrolling down here, first and foremost, I will just point out that CoffeeZilla has said that he's reached out to all of the influencers and only Meet Kevin replied. He's basically said he'd be willing to pay back some of the money as a charity, but he's not responsible for your losses. So I've watched the video, and long story short, that's basically what he's saying. He's saying he'll pay some money back as like a charity donation, but he's not doing that in the sense of him admitting that he's responsible for any of the losses. He's saying he's doing it more of a charitable act in terms of feeling sorry for people who have lost money, and he's basically saying it's not really a YouTuber's fault for people who decide to invest. They're just basically giving, you know, their opinion. That's the long story short of the video. So we then also just have here Legal Eagle, who just quickly reviewed the lawsuit, and they've just said this is a cut and paste job of the lawsuit against Tom Brady. Literally the same lawyers, plaintiffs, and claims. So it does look like this is just a cut and paste job that they've done. Which, does that mean it's just a quick money grab? I don't know. You know, it does make you question, does it really have merit, right? The way they've just kind of rushed it out and just used the same template of a different lawsuit, right? So, okay, let's get into the actual nitty gritty of this, okay? So this is why this kind of situation is quite difficult, okay? When you've got a situation like this, the reason why it's difficult is because the truth is that you just don't know what the person's intentions are, right? So let me put it to you like this, first and foremost, with like the FTX scandal. People who've lost money, of course, are going to be angry and they are going to be upset. But I think sometimes what can happen is when people are upset, it can kind of blind them from some of the kind of obvious truths in a situation. And so what I mean by that is, okay, let's just take the Silicon Valley Bank collapse that's just recently happened, right? As just a quick example, right? If you was to ask anybody generally, hey, did you know that this was going to happen with Silicon Valley Bank? I'm sure they're going to say no, right? Like, Silicon Valley Bank is huge. It's like the biggest tech startup bank, right? It's where they all go to for the tech startups. So if you used to say to them, would you have seen this coming? Of course they're going to say no. And the truth of the matter is these companies are going to hide that kind of thing. They're not going to make it obvious because they're trying to cover their backs. So they don't want to just make it obvious that it's going to collapse until it's too late. And that's why a lot of the people will usually jump ship just before it comes out, because they'll, you know, sell shares, for example, to make sure that they've made some profit, which is what's actually happened with the Silicon Valley Bank situation with some of the directors. So, you know, if you used to look at FTX when they were working for them, well, when FTX was sponsoring them, let's say, if you used to say, hey, you know, why didn't you do your due diligence? Well, at the time, FTX probably looked absolutely fine. Like, if FTX was one of the biggest crypto exchanges out here. So I'm sure at the time, even if you'd have done your due diligence, you probably wouldn't have seen this coming. It probably all would have looked fine because they were commingling funds. They were disguising what they were doing. They wasn't, making it completely obvious for anybody to see. This was something that just came from out of nowhere, right? So it's hard to say that an influencer has just kind of been like, hey, I know this company is shady and I'm just going to take the money because they're giving me the money. So I'm just going to do that and promote them. So that's where I think the difficult aspect of this comes, because if they genuinely have just had an offer from a huge exchange and the exchange looks legitimate, and so they've said, yeah, okay, you'll seem all good, or maybe I've even used your exchange before in the past, so yeah, I'm willing to do business with you guys. And then they've, had the sponsorship, they've promoted it, and then next thing you know, it's turned out they've been involved in a huge scandal. Well, they wasn't working for the company, they don't know the ins and outs of the workings, they're just, they're just doing their job, right? And sponsorships is part of a YouTuber's job. So I think that's where it's difficult. Now, we have to then get to the opposite side of this, and that's where I come back to again, intention, right? The intent, because I do think there are times where there can be people, and I'm not saying this is specific YouTubers or anything like that, I'm just saying celebrities or whoever, they could get an offer from a shady company and they might even look at them and think they're shady. But if the deal's good enough, if the money's good enough, they might just turn a blind eye and say, hey, just give me the money and it's all good. Give me the money and I'll promote whatever it is you're selling. So I think that's where it's difficult, because if that is how they did operate, and it's like they did have suspicions and then it was just like, hey, I don't care if you're shady or not, I'm just going to promote you because you're going to pay me, then of course I do think that's very reckless, and I do think that questions that person's integrity, right? Because it's clearly them giving up money for their morals and the sake of their supporters who watch them and take their advice. But I mean, I look at it like this. Yeah, I'm kind of new into this YouTube space right now, and I'm doing research on crypto coins and stuff like that, and I'll do a video here on a coin that I may think has potential, but I can't guarantee any coin that I promote on here is going to be amazing. I can say this is what the potential is for it and this is what I think in my opinion, but it really is just going to be my opinion, so I can never make no guarantees. Now, I'm not being sponsored by any of these coins, so I guess everything I do, I will make clear that I'm not making any kind of guarantees of any kind of profit that you can make. I'll just say the potential and what I personally think in my opinion about the coin, which I suppose is a bit of a different situation. But I just look at it as, I think how I would feel now if, I've promoted a coin on YouTube because of the potential I've seen in it. And then let's just say it doesn't go well. And then next thing I know, someone's suing me saying that, well, you put this video out, speaking about its potential and now it's gone down and I've lost money. So I want to sue you for that. I would feel like that's a bit unfair if I'm literally just giving you my opinion and, I'm not telling anyone to buy, but I am just giving you the advice of what I've seen from my research. You kind of have to decide whether you want to take that or not. So again, it really is difficult, but I think the thing is this here is I can say I know what my intentions are. I know my intentions aren't to deceive people. I'm not just trying to, get people to buy into a coin. I'm not being paid by any of these companies. So anything I've put out up until now is just literally me doing research on what I think is potentially good. So I guess maybe, again, it is a bit of a different situation, but, I do think it's a difficult water to navigate for a YouTuber, a successful YouTuber, because they are trying to give advice and guidance, but that advice and guidance is just that. It's advice and guidance, and it's an opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be correct. And I do think sometimes YouTubers, they get this kind of status like they're way more knowledgeable because they're popular on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, and they think everything that they say is definitely going to be correct. And, you know, I think, you know, and I'll say this myself, even if I was to get like, you know, big on YouTube, I would still say, don't just take my word for gospel. Do your own research, because I could be wrong. I will never try and tell you that everything I say is going to be right, because I know that's not going to necessarily be the case. Like, there's going to be things that could maybe be challenged, and that's fine. You know, we're all here to learn and grow. So, you know, I think it's a bit of a tricky situation in regards to, you know, how this should be kind of treated. In terms of the actual case, I don't really know at the moment. Like, looking at what they've said in regards to it being a cut and paste job of the lawsuit against Tom Brady, you know, whether that's going to have much merit, I don't know. If it does, I'd probably say it's more than likely going to be a settlement, more than likely, because I think that's going to be the quickest and easiest way to get this done and over with, rather than going through the whole court process. But it's whether the actual case really has merit at the moment. So time will tell, but it is a very interesting situation. But, you know, as I say, I can't say what people's intentions were with FTX. I would like to think, because of how big FTX was, I think it's probably a thing where they assumed it was legitimate, which I can't understand. You know, it's like now if Binance collapsed, I think people are a lot more wary because FTX collapsed. So now there was scares. Like, it's like how Silicon Valley Bank has now collapsed, and now other banks are coming out of the woodwork, and it's showing that there's other banks that are in trouble. You don't know until something exposes that situation, and then you start to get weary, right? But it took that to happen for everybody to start looking around and thinking, oh, is my bank safe? Same with the exchanges, yeah. Everybody was comfortable until FTX collapsed, and then that, you know, sparked, you know, panic, and then people were starting to question Binance, and Binance had a bank run, but they, you know, survived that. So I do think, my opinion, this is my opinion, obviously from the outside looking in, I've got no inside information here. I would have thought that they assumed this was legitimate. I don't think this was just a give us the money and we'll promote it no matter if it's a scam or not. I think it probably would have been with genuine intentions. I just don't think they would have believed that this would have happened. And I think at least that this situation now is something that they can learn from going forward, because obviously they wouldn't want something like this to happen again. So I guess that now they will be that little bit more diligent with their sponsors and who they take on. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this. It's a tricky situation, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But what do you guys think? Do you think the lawsuit is deserved? Do you think, you know, they're in the wrong for promoting it the way they did? I don't know all these guys, so I can't say I've seen everybody's sponsor, if I'll be honest. And I'll be honest with you, I can't, even the ones who I do watch, I can't really say I remember exactly what the sponsors were like. So maybe I should go back and take a look at that just to see what I think, because maybe that might change my opinion, looking at what the sponsorships were actually like. But yes, that's my thoughts for now. Well, let's keep an eye on it. Let me know what you guys think. If you've got any thoughts on this, I'll be interested to hear. Thanks very much for watching, guys. If you did like this, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. But until next time, take care.